This episode of the Model 3 Owners Club podcast is brought to you by Doulaban Insurance. If you live in Ontario, Canada, and are looking for the best price and coverage on your Tesla, give Doulaban a call at 1-855-385-4226 or visit our website at doulabaninsurance.com/Tesla. Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is time for another edition of the Model 3 Owners Club podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Page, and joining me this evening are my usual co-hosts, Ian Pavelko and Eric Camacho. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Hello, world.
Hello,
Bonsoir
world.
tout le monde.
How you guys get along this week? You know, you had some little strange weather patterns and stuff. It's been bitterly cold a couple of days down here. We had some problems with ice and some freezing of doors and all kinds of stuff.
I don't know what you speak of, and I'm going to go out on a limb here because, and I don't want to be that guy. It's like, what the hell are you people all complaining about? But honestly, what the hell are you people all complaining about? Like, my car has worked so well, and I'm not in fanboy mode. I'm just relating an experience here. We've been hammered. We've been having nights of like minus 30 something wind chill. It's been, we've had huge thaws where the car is soaking wet 1 minute, and then it's like entombed in half an inch of ice the next minute. And I have had zero, knock on wood, zero issues to date with this thing. Ever since they implemented the new logic for the windows, I find they snap open, no problem at all. The door handles, yes, occasionally you have to get a little aggressive with the thumb, to pop through the ice, but they've worked. Like I've never been stranded. I've never not been able to get into the car. I've had no problems with the charge port. Like it's all been working mint. So I got no complaints about that.
Not asking for any refunds?
No. No. I mean,
Eric, you have nothing to complain about. You're in a warmer climate, so I'm assuming you don't have anything to say.
I have really nothing bad to say at all. We had some rain today. It was not a great day to be outside, but we're going to get some cooler temperatures. But my thoughts are for all of you who are experiencing this Arctic chill. It's supposed to be pretty stark weather over the next few days. So if you live in a colder climate, just stay bundled up, please.
Yeah,
Yes.
we had about 2, maybe 3 inches of snow a couple days ago. It's all gone now. It all melted. We did get some warmer temperatures last night, and resulted in a nice sheet of glass or ice everywhere. And didn't have any troubles with my doors. My windows stuck a little bit, but that was just a matter of just getting the doors open. Anyways, enough about the cold weather. We don't want to talk about this. It's been a little bit of a quiet week on the Tesla news front. But we do have a couple of items that we want to talk about as we get through, and then later on we'll get into viewer questions. So I want to thank everybody for sending in your questions on Twitter, as we usually are like to do on a Thursday, because it's our favorite part of the show. Anyway, so the first little bit we want to get into here is Elon finally took to Twitter this week to give us some more rundowns on some stuff that's happening. Number one thing, let me just pull it up here. Sentry mode is finally coming. Now, for those of you who don't know, a few months ago, Tesla, or Elon, mentioned that on somebody's request, that they were going to add some kind of 360-degree view to the cars based on autopilot's 8 cameras. So, Twitter follower named Andy Sutton asked about Elon because he had a big major dent in his car, and Tesla said that the Sentry mode was coming for all cars with enhanced autopilot. He went on to clarify, of course, because somebody was asking, do you need enhanced autopilot for this? He says, no, it's part of safety and security, so all cars with AP2 plus hardware will get it. So basically all cars since, I think, August of 2016 and going forward will get this software update in a short amount of time, hopefully. So I would suspect that it's probably in the early access program or in the later part of validations when we get this. So hopefully, I don't think it's in a direct reaction to what we've been seeing down in California about all the break-ins have been happening on the Model 3, but if it helps, then all is great. I should caution most people, again, for those of you who expected a lot more from the Tesla Cam in version 9, just temper your expectations a little bit. These are not high bandwidth cameras and stuff. But if it gives us a 360-degree view for future things, namely for parking, that's one thing I'd really like to see, then all's the better. So I would suspect if they're going to store those clips on the USB key, make sure you have a decent size USB key. I think, what was it? The Tesla Cam stores things, it says front camera. So based on the naming, of course, we'll probably get some more views from around the car. You guys have any thoughts on this? Is this something that you'd like to see?
Yeah, who wouldn't? I mean, free security monitoring. I don't see what the downside of it is. I think it's great.
Mm-hmm. Eric, any thoughts on this? Agreed.
No, I sort of
nice and simple.
It's really simple. I think the two things I think about is one, this again falls in line with Tesla's second favorite thing they talk about, which is safety and security, which is really great. But more so, it's utilizing what's already on the car and just making the software work in a way where it allows more features to be unleashed. And this is a very simple thing. And, I'm not sure how long they've been trying to test it and make sure that it works. But I think once they're able to do the update and owners can get that on their car, it'll be a great thing. Because I'm sure a lot of people will park their car somewhere and they walk out an hour later and go, well, how did this happen? Who did it? And, the cars that were there before they left are different now. So it'll be good to see what the cars can capture. And I agree with you that the quality is going to be a little bit different, but at least it gives you some information that would help.
Well, we'll certainly keep an eye on this. As soon as we get it, we'll do a video thing and we'll talk about it on the podcast. The second little bit of information, usually in the same thread, and I'll bring it up here. Someone had asked, how is advanced summing coming along? And Elon took to Twitter again to respond to the person and said, almost ready to roll out, regulators just approved it. Now, we have to unpack this a little bit. For those of you who are not aware, enhanced autopilot is, I think, a couple things. Number one is follow you around, meaning the car, around like a pet in a parking lot. Elon did say, I think it was last week, he said it was pretty trippy. So we'll see what that means. The second part of it, I think, and we haven't had confirmation, is something that I've been talking about for some time now, is what I call seek and park mode. And I think it's still on Tesla's list of things to do. What I don't know, though, is that if it's part of enhanced autopilot or require full self-driving. But that's literally being able to get out of the car and let the car go out and find some kind of parking spot on its own and maybe summon it. Say, like, you're eating at a restaurant and you're ready to go and you can just summon the car and meet you out front. That's what I hope. Mm-hmm. Whether it actually works like that, I don't know. But that's one of the features I'm looking forward to. So the other part, of course, is talking about regulations. I'm assuming he's meaning the U.S., of course, because, when enhanced autopilot, the last update that came out in version 9, what was it? Navigate on autopilot, took quite a while for us to see it in Canada, at least a month or two later. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would suspect he's talking about U.S. regulators. Again, this could be a regional thing, so we really don't know at this point. He's not one, Elon will get out there and he'll say something, but then he doesn't really explicitly explain like all the little machinations and stuff. He just says, it's been approved. What do you mean by that? Yeah, let's see here. Is there anything else in this thread we can take a look at here? Yeah, someone had asked, Elon, in Elon we trust, which is another Twitter account that I follow. He says which states, and of course he didn't specify and stuff. So just having a quick look here at the thread. I did ask Elon. I said here down at the bottom, I said, any love for Canada this time around? Didn't get a response. So
I think while we're trying to figure this out, I would be hard pressed to believe it would be regional. I mean, again, I've stranger things have happened. I just find it very hard to believe that they would make that regional. I think if they're looking at regulators, it would be something that would occur across the United States, and then roll things out to countries outside of that. Just because
I think that's what I meant by regional. I should have said national, maybe.
Okay.
That choice.
I want to for those who are listening to the show. Trevor's been wrong in the past. I just want to make sure that we're clearing things up here for the masses. But no, I think the same way you do, because we talked before the show of whether or not Nav and Autopilot is currently in the EU, and I think we all sort of are in agreement that it's something that we're going to see. Just initially, maybe in a few months from now, or sometime later on, but I don't think it's rolling out as we speak. If you are following the show and you do know of people who have Nav and Autopilot in Europe, please tell us. We just haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
But no, this is a really cool feature. I'm sort of hesitant, especially here in Florida, because people in Florida, and this is not a stereotype, many people don't park very well here in Florida. I've seen a lot of parking lot accidents here in Florida, so I don't know if I would want my car sort of driving on its own to park on a spot eventually. I guess depends where it might happen. But yeah, I think still having the car be able to maybe pull out of a spot and come to your location if you're reasonably close, especially if it's like a weather day where you're like, I'm not going to walk out to my car, let my car come to me. That would be great. How far we are from that is yet to be seen, but I think it's gonna be cool when we finally see what the new version of Summon can do.
I got a question for you, an unrelated thing, Eric, since you're in Florida. I heard somewhere, and I don't know if this is true or not, maybe you can clarify it. When you park your car, you can't park your car. Someone told me you can't park your car by backing in. You have to be a certain way because the cops need to see your license plate. Is that true? I don't know what that...
There are some developments, there are some locations because of security teams that want to know. Because in Florida, for those of you who don't know, Florida does not have license plates in the front of the car, only in the rear.
That's kind of what I meant by it, yeah.
Right, yeah. And a lot of states require you have a plate in front and back. So it's great to live in a state where the front of my Model 3 is very clean.
Yeah.
No, but there are certainly, I've been to like certain apartment complexes and some shopping areas where they do ask that you park your car nose cone first. But it's not a law. I mean, there's a number of people who will back their cars into parking spaces. It just depends on where you're at. If it's private property, they can certainly ask that you don't do that.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask since you're in Florida and I happen to be going down there next week. I just kind of wanted to know, just to be.
You'll be fine. You're totally fine. We parallel park here too. You're good.
Okay. All right. Moving on. The next little one came about because we have a friend that we follow on Twitter. His name is Marc Benton. And how you doing, Marc? If you're watching along, he has a really neat YouTube channel that he started up. So please give him some love. I'll put a link down in the podcast in the video description if you want to subscribe to his channel. Anyways, he started something a few days ago, and he says, and I'll bring up the tweet here that he put out. He says, I got word from what I believe to be a credible source that the standard range Model 3 will still have the glass roof, but will have a roof liner, textile fabric, on the inside covering the glass. So I thought we'd just take a few minutes today, and I don't know if this is true or not, of course, because I don't have any secondary confirmation. Not that I'm God or anything like that, but it's the first I've heard of this. But I thought it would be interesting to have a little discussion about what we expect to see on the standard range Model 3 as far as the interior is concerned, because at $35,000 car, just for people that need, just to reiterate, if you're ordering a Model 3 right now, all variants that they currently make require you to buy the premium interior. And the premium interior has always been not controversial, but I know a lot of people have always been speculating, of course, what is the standard Model 3 going to have? Because if you remember, if you go back to the Model 3 reveal event, Doug Field, who was the Tesla engineer, during one of the test drives, and Ryan McCaffrey, our good friend Ryan, was sitting in the back, and he explicitly asked him if the glass roof was going to be standard. And Doug said, no, we're going to have options for glass, a metal roof, and of course a sunroof. Now, you have to also remember that those plans have likely changed quite a bit since the early days, excuse me, of the Model 3 program. My personal opinion, and I'm just going to put it out there first, and we can have this discussion. My opinion about the Model 3, if you look at what Tesla's done with the Model S in terms of their simplification, they used to have a metal roof on the Model S. They used to have an optional panoramic roof, which is the sunroof, which is now gone, of course. Now the only roof you can get is the full glass roof. It does not make sense to me to have a Model 3 with two roof options. This makes sense from the...
Hold the phone there. Are you telling me you can't get pano roof on an S anymore?
Correct. It's gone.
I did not know
All
that.
glass. Yeah, glass only.
Shocking.
Yes.
Carry on.
So, sorry. So my point with this is...
well, yeah, no, it's one of those off-menu ones. You might be able to get it, but yeah, you can't just go online to the configurator and design it with a
It's not in the configurator, which means that if it's off menu, it's only there for a limited amount of time. Eventually, they're going to get rid of it.
Okay.
Right.
So getting back to my point here, I have always been of the opinion that simplicity rules with Tesla. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to watch what they've been doing in terms of simplification of their product offerings in terms of options you can order with the car. So my opinion has always been that I always felt that the metal roof was never really on the plate. Maybe at first, but based on what they've been doing with the Model S, I never thought that the metal roof was going to be an option on the Model 3. Glass just makes sense from simplicity, from cost. I mean, Elon said many times glass is cheap. Okay, so what he calls cheap and what we call cheap is two different things. Mm-hmm. I always suspected that the standard interior on the Model 3 would really basically be cloth seats, no premium sound system, and that's about it. Everything else would just basically stay the same. However, this little bit here about keeping the glass roof makes sense, but covering it with a fabric textile and maybe painting the underside of the glass, because obviously you can't have it, you need it to be opaque in order to save things like the headliner or whatever else is underneath from UV rays. Bottom line, I don't like this. This is cheating. If they do this, it's cheating. They shouldn't do this. It feels cheap to me to do this.
Well, I followed that whole thread, and I thought there were lots of good points brought up. And one of the theories was, well, they're going to put in the textile liner in lieu of the UV coating in the glass, which I imagine adds a fair amount of cost to it. So that could be one way out, but still, what's the real difference between having to add the fabric liner versus paying for the coating versus what the perceived value is to the customer? I mean, if we're talking a couple $100, wouldn't you rather have the full effect of the tinted roof? I mean, I don't get it.
I think in this case, it's about appearances. They need to do something in order to not be able to justify the $5,000 premium.
Oh, I know. I
get that
completely. I understand their justification, but I mean, anybody with a brain is going to look at it and go, seriously, you're going to block it out so that the people who paid extra for the premium feel like they're getting extra value? Like, no. I mean, it ain't going to look good.
I mean, I align my feelings the way that you gentlemen both do. I also think that we need to remember the premium interiors got a lot of stuff to it. So, I mean, if you're going from the premium seating that we have now to the textile seating, there's the fog lamps are gone. You can't save driver profiles. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that obviously the premium package has. But from an aesthetics standpoint, I agree with you that this is not the best way to approach it. Now, whether, again, we haven't had a secondary source verify what Marc had reported. And so we're not here to discredit Marc's source in any way. We just don't have a secondary source to confirm it. So we're going on the pretext that this is what's going to happen. And yeah, it sort of cheapens the experience. And I'm using that term not to devalue the car. It just doesn't seem to be the way you'd want to go about it.
Yeah, that's the problem with secondary source. And I've not been able to confirm this. When I say appearances, I don't mean from the outside of the car. I think keeping the glass and painting the underside black or whatever keeps the look of the car contiguous. I mean, if you look at the top of a model, any one of the Teslas, any of the Teslas without a paint, with a glass roof, you get that really nice, sexy curve thing happening, and it gives you a nice continuous, glass expanse. So from that aspect, from appearances, I don't have a problem with that. It's just that if I know I have a glass roof under there and all they've done is extended the headliner, it's like, it just feels cheap to me. It's a cheap thing to do. Just leave it open. Yes. I don't know. That's just
agreed.
Me.
All right. Let's start a hashtag. Let's start this trending. It's like glass roof for all. Glass roof for all.
Glass roof for all.
That's
all right.
Hashtag leave it open.
Leave it open. There you go. I like that. Let's do that one, everyone. Let's get on Twitter and tell Elon glass for everyone. I agree. Right. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting because, again, this is speculation. It's fun to indulge ourselves once in a while as long as you keep your expectations in check. We don't know exactly what Tesla's plans are or what they're going to do, but it's kind of fun to jump in once in a while. We're pretty close to seeing the standard interior, I would suspect, probably around, what did we say? After July 1st, maybe? We'll probably see that.
Mm-hmm.
Just while we're still on the topic, guys, I want to go back, I think maybe to to the event in California, the last event, well, they were giving test drives. The reveal. This could be back the original in 2016, where I thought that the seats were going to be manual adjustment. They wouldn't be powered seats. Am I incorrect on that?
There is a possibility they may do that.
Yeah, it seemed to me, because there was going to be no memory function because the seats were going to be like manual, like slotted tracks and not electrically powered.
Yeah, well, the last loaner that I had was a Mercedes CLA 250, and now, of course, everyone on Twitter and everybody said you can't compare that to a Model 3. It's a different animal altogether. But the point is that even on a car that sells for, well, in Canadian dollars, about $45,000, equipped the way that the loaner was, it had completely manual seats. So.
Yeah, that's not unusual in very base versions of compact luxury sedans. It's not unusual to have a manual seat.
There's definitely going to be some changes. It's just, what are they going to do? Like, how much is it actually saving them? We know that Tesla, I'll be honest, they overcharge for their options in some respects. But to me, it just makes total sense. You go to cloth on the seats. Maybe you go to manual seats. Definitely get rid of the premium sound system, because if you look at the S and the X, you got to pay extra for that. Although it's included now. There was a time when it was, extra and stuff. So Correct. They've been rejiggering their things. Again, they've been repositioning, and this is something we're going to talk about here in a second. But they've been repositioning the product line again. So, speaking of which, let's get into this, because this is our next topic of conversation. Eric, you want to jump in here and do this one for us?
Sure, no problem. So there's been a lot of reporting on Tesla in recent days with their cut in their workforce that happened last week as we were taping our show. And there's also been some news this week. This came out through Reuters yesterday, where in an email from Tesla to Reuters, they talked about the reduction in production lines for Model S and the Model X lines. So in the email from Tesla to Reuters, Tesla spokesperson said, as a result of this change, that is the elimination of the 75D cars, and because of improving efficiencies in our production lines, we have reduced Model S and X production hours accordingly. These changes, along with continuing improvements, give us the flexibility to increase our production capacity in the future as needed. Now, what that translates to is something to be seen. We sort of think before the show that maybe they're going to take some of that workforce that was working on those production lines and move them to other areas, say Model 3 or perhaps even Model Y, as that gets ramped up later on this year. So, gentlemen, thoughts, of course, are very welcome, but I think this is nothing newsworthy in the grand sense, because we'd sort of felt like this was coming, but I think it allows them to repurpose their workforce for some other areas of need.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, we know that they're in a period right now where they're really trying to trim the fat. The obvious goal here is get to the $35,000 car. And I think, nothing is being overlooked. Anything they could potentially do to increase efficiencies of the entire operation. I got to think right now that's the most immediate goal, is to get there. I mean, there's tens of thousands of people around the globe that are waiting for that model, and they got to get there. And this might just simply be part of that strategy.
Yeah.
I mean,
we know. I was going to say, Tesla is planning on having some more information regarding this very topic coming up on Wednesday. The next earnings call is slated for January 30th. Now, we're not going to have a show next week, so we certainly will talk about that on our next show in February. But yeah, that's the next earnings call. So if you want to sort of have an idea of what's going to happen while we're away, I would say follow up on that earnings call. You can go to the investor relations section on Tesla.com, and you can get some more information there.
I may do a live stream that day, depending on my timing. So we may have some fun with that. My personal opinion about this, I'm just going to throw this in here, and I'm just looking at it from a slightly different angle in some ways. The recent canning of the 75D battery option on the S and the X, without an according price adjustment on those cars, basically has separated the S and the X even further from the 3. Mm-hmm. So I think in some markets that's going to decrease demand on those cars, because they've just become a little bit less affordable for a lot of people. So if you're going to decrease demand there, it just leaves you more room to increase your production on the Model 3, where, essentially right now, that's the bread and butter for the company. So I don't see it as a bad thing. It just means that this is a short-term thing. I mean, Europe's coming online. China's going to be coming online for Model 3 real soon. So there's certainly not going to be any drop in demand for Model 3 anytime soon, I don't think. So it's not a bad thing.
To that end, there are some people who are reporting that their Kelley Blue Book value for their Model 3s have increased as it coincides with the reduction in the federal tax credit here in the United States. So some people are seeing their cars become even more valuable in recent days.
Oh, that's a good point. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, let's move on to the next little one here. We don't have that much to talk about, but Tesla has been sending out invites for special Model 3 and Winter S driving experience in Finland. I'll bring up the post here from Tesla Roddy. So Tesla's basically saying, has been sending out to people, says, this March we might bring you and a friend to the frozen sea in Finland. Sign up for a chance to experience a unique driving event with Model 3 and Model S in Europe. Enjoy Model 3 track mode and the unparalleled power in best class acceleration of Model S as you race across a wintry ice track with a trained professional. Winners receive complimentary travel, room and board, and a special dinner at Kemi Snow Castle. Share this with friends and families who participate. This is interesting. This is the first time I've actually seen Tesla actually do anything with complimentary room and travel. Every time we go to these events, we're on the hook for everything.
No
so
kidding.
There's gonna be some happy campers in Europe, anyways. Get to experience track mode. Of course, Ian's all about track mode. So, what do you guys think?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's awesome. I mean, a lot of the other premium brands have offered stuff like this. Time and again. I managed to bum a couple of rides with Audi over the years here. They've done some nice winter events at some resorts up north here, and they were always very well organized. And it's kind of fun, it makes you feel a little bit more attached to the brand, and they wine you and you dine you. It's a cool thing to do. And I mean, in Finland, are you kidding? This is like Rally Central. I would definitely kill. I mean that in the literal sense. You want somebody off? I will do that if you get me on this trip. But
I'm leaving in 3, 2, 1.
See ya.
I kid. No, I think it looks great, and the fact that they're going to pick up the tab on the whole thing is even better. It looks fantastic. That's kind of like one of those cool premium brand things that typically they've avoided in the past. It's nice to see them indulging at least one or two little ones here and there now.
Yeah, I've also been getting reports, for those of you who are not aware. I think it's both Norway and Germany, at least two of the countries, are starting Model 3 test rides or test drives now. So if you're still in the market and you haven't hopped onto the Model 3 bandwagon, haven't pulled the trigger on your configuration, of course, the boats are literally on their way to Europe. So there's websites, the Marine Tracker and stuff. You can keep an eye on the Glovis Captain if you want to see what your where your car might be. But yeah, for those of you who are looking at doing a test ride, get in touch with Tesla locally and stuff so that you can get in on that. So yeah, things are happening for Europe. Of course, the forum is starting to explode now. We've got sections for Europeans. So if you're in Europe and you're actually watching the podcast or listening to the podcast, I encourage you to hop onto our forum. We have a whole section all divided up into the major European countries. So if you want to discuss anything local to your situation, we've just created a new sub-forum in there. And Michael Russo, one of our moderators, is on there. He's been cleaning it up in preparation for everybody to start sharing their Model 3 delivery experiences in Europe. So just wanted to put that out there for everybody.
And it's free.
As far as that's going. Yes, and it's totally free. Membership is free, folks. It doesn't cost you anything. I mean, we have great sponsors and stuff. They help pay the bills. So membership is totally free. Jump in. We have thousands of members on there. So just wanted to throw that out there for you guys. One more little bit before we get into some of the other stuff. I want to make one last pitch for Cars and Coffee. So put down February 3rd from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at EVAnnex's headquarters in Deerfield Beach, Florida. We are having a Cars and Coffee event, so everybody's welcome. It is RSVP, however, so I'll have a link down in the video or the podcast description. You must RSVP to this event so we have a good head count. So we know how many people are coming, of course, for the coffee and donuts and all that fun stuff. So there's going to be some fun activities. Going to have lots of Model 3s there. We're going to have the whole Midnight Silver Collective, Rafael Santoni from Teslatino YouTube channel there. Our good friend Michael Bodner from Tesla Tuna will be there. You get to see Eric. You get to see Ian. I mean, there's going to be a ton of people there. So we really highly encourage you to go and sign up for that. We're looking forward to seeing you guys. And man, it's like, I can't wait for vacation. I'm so burnt out. I just need some sun. I need some sun in my life. It's just crazy. My vitamin D count is way down.
You and me both, buddy. Woo.
Oh, all right. Before we move on to viewer questions, Ian, I want you to take a couple minutes here and talk about your rally article that just came out.
Yeah, this was kind of cool. Some of you might have seen I had posted up some snippets on what I'd been doing with my rally club here. I used to belong to a club called Sports Motor Car Club. Well, I still do technically, SMCC, which was one of the oldest car clubs in Canada. And I'd been doing navigational rallying for about the last 30 years, what the Americans or our American listeners would call TSD, time, speed, distance rallies. And we have a special brand of that up here, the winter rallies, where we do them at night, way out in the rural roads. They're run on public roads, so we do have to obey all of the speed limits, et cetera, et cetera. But as I point out in the article, it is still very challenging because we're running in minus 10, minus 20 degree weather. The roads are snow and ice covered. We actually had a nice little storm come through last Saturday night during the event. I was the organizer of this event, so I didn't get to compete. But I engineered it in such a way that it would absolutely push the car to the limit. I wanted to see how far we could get away with it and sort of practice to see what would happen ultimately if I wind up competing in an event against the traditional ice competition. So one of our listeners, followers, Iqtidar Ali from Auto World had reached out to me and said, look, why don't you write me a bit of a story on this so I can share with my folks what this was all about. So I did a little quick write-up on it, and he basically published it there and was kind enough to insert the photos and my really crap video, which, while I apologize for the 14th time, I literally a day or 2 days before the event, I cracked my cheap-ass Best Buy camera mount that I had. The ratchet mechanism on it broke. So I rushed in overnight a RAM mount from the nice folks at GPS City out in Calgary. Unfortunately, I totally miscalculated the length of the arm necessary to drop the camera into the right position so that it would see sort of the driver's eye view. So when you look at it, you're mostly looking at sun visor and mirror. And a little bit of road. So you can watch the video clip in there. You can see the angle of the car moving around. I think it sort of demonstrates a little bit, but trust me, the new mount that I've got now will be way better.
I like the screenshot here. You're playing with fire a little bit. Got down to 1% SOC.
That's the thing. I encourage everyone to go and read the article. It will save you from listening to me.
I'll have a link in
for the next 10 minutes.
Video podcast description.
But it basically, it was really nerve-wracking on the night of the rally. I acted as what's called course opening car. So that is, I have to leave 15 minutes ahead of the competitors to go out, run the route, make sure all my checkpoint cars are in the correct location, that the roads are actually open, that there's no closers or any safety hazards. So you basically have to go like hell to stay ahead of the rally traffic the whole night. You got to be moving faster than them because you have to keep stopping and checking things. So when I had engineered the route, I set it up to go about 240 kilometers or just shy of 145 miles or so, 140 miles. And it turned out that on normal weather, let's call it, around the freezing mark down to about 10 below 0 Celsius, that was fine. I came back with a few points left in the battery. On the night of the event, we had minus 21 weather and a massive storm come in about halfway through. So we had blowing snow. The roads were snow covered. It was crazy. And it was super challenging to drive. And in order to keep ahead of the rally traffic, I'd left late, so I was really moving. At the halfway point, we were down to 45% battery. Let that sink in. We're at the farthest point of the rally. We got to come home. We have less than half a battery left. How's that going to work, right? So the one thing that saved my ass was that I had engineered a little safety valve. There was a section of the route which was looped. In other words, the cars did this 13-kilometer route where they passed the same roads twice. So I was, as organizer, able to just check the roads once, make sure everybody's there. I could cut out that 13K, and it wound up being all the difference because when we got back to the finish, we had 1% battery left.
I saw that.
Yeah. And my navigator Dave the whole time was looking at it. We had his daughter in the back seat doing the comm with the checkpoint crews, and they just kind of went really quiet the last 30 minutes. They're just staring at the screen going 12, 11, 10. how far do we have to go? And I'm doing it. Come on, baby. Come on. You can do this.
Come on.
You can do this. You know, like we just go over the huge bridge over the Ottawa River into Hawkesbury. We're at 2%. And it's just like, well, if we regen down the other side, I think we'll be fine, folks. Yeah. And it just flicked over to 1 as we pulled into the parking lot.
Nothing like going on a little bit of a trip and getting down to that low SOC. I did that when I went out to, I was at Vermont this year. I pulled into a couple of superchargers. We were running on fumes down to 3%, 5%, something like there. I don't like to push it that far, but when I have the supercharger made, I know it's not an issue, of course. So.
Well, you know, the thing is, once you get the hang of reading it, there's 2 ways you can do it, right? On a normal trip where you're on normal roads and the nav is looking at, you know, the route, and it sort of follows your progress, and it keeps re-predicting based on your usage and the weather and the headwinds and everything, like how much you're going to need. It's quite predictive. Like you can rely quite well on what it's telling you. But when you're doing what I was doing with it, which is completely stupid, you know, it's you're sideways and 6 inches of snow, like the car doesn't understand that. It's like, and you can't even program the destination in the nav because it's this super screwy loop-de-loop route. So the only way you can really do it is to look at the real-time energy usage and figure out, okay, well, I know in section 3 there's lots of hills, and section 4 there's this and that, and based on 3 times going through there, I knew what it was going to do. And it still, like, just being able to read those energy graphs that we got in one of the last updates was hugely helpful. It gave me the confidence to be able to plot it out, and it really worked down to the 1%. It was really right.
I've noticed that there's, at least somewhere since the version 9 release, there's been another point release that's come out, and I've noticed a marked improvement in the prediction of the algorithm of the SOC, the state of charge, has definitely improved. You know, they're not really, I don't think they're taking weather and cold into account at this point, but I'm
hearing that, yes, apparently not. Well, weather and cold are 2 different things. Apparently what I'm hearing now is that it's using the outside temperature sensor to plot it, and it's also incorporating elevation change, which is huge. That makes a big difference, obviously.
Well, that would come from Google Maps, of course. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for that report, Ian. It's always welcome to hear what you're up to, of course, with Magneto. We're going to get down to the part of the show we really like, and that's viewer questions. So I want to say a big shout out and thank you for everybody sending them in. We can't possibly answer all of them, but we're going to do our best to try and narrow it down to some of the good ones. FineLab has a line of protective coatings that were engineered to protect your Tesla's paint, leather, carpet, plastic, and wheels, effectively blocking all those UV rays and environmental factors before they ever get to ruin your brand new baby. FineLab offers a complete line of car care products and ceramic coatings for both the do-it-yourselfer and professional detailers. Did we mention we also have the world's first self-healing coating? Check us out at finelab.com, that's spelled F-E-Y-N-L-A-B, to see the science behind the self-healing. Check out our product catalog and click Contact Us for a free quote from a certified installer in your area. FineLab and Tesla. We were meant for each other. So the first one we're going to get into here comes from FC Factory, and I see, Ian, you've been answering some of his questions, but question number 1, he says, I read a tweet about rebalancing batteries. What exactly does that mean, and how do we go about doing that? Question number 2 is for Ian. So I'll tackle the first little bit. So rebalancing batteries, what does that mean? I lost my camera here. It just went cuckoo. Keep talking.
Frozen Trevor.
Yeah, I got a frozen Trevor. I apologize.
All right.
It may
you
come
want me
back.
to number 2 while you get to this?
Yeah, why don't you do that here? I'll get this thing sorted out.
Sounds gross.
So, of course, Mr. Camacho would make that instant association. lest we doubt. Yes, to get on to question number 2. So question number 2 was, are studded tires overkill on a rear-wheel drive Model 3 in the Montreal area? And my response was, nothing in the Montreal area for winter tires is overkill. I mean, basically, if you wanted to put, chains the entire winter, you could justify that. But no, realistically, on this car, that's a personal preference thing. I find in urban areas, studs can be a little bit over the top, but I know I can only speak really from experience in Quebec. We are starting to get way more ice than we are snow in winters. Winters are starting to get colder. There's long stretches where we just basically have compacted snow, ice, or black ice. So studs come in really handy. My personal choice was to avoid them just because the car is so blissfully quiet. And I mean, you have that constant sound, the chatter at low speeds of the studs, on the concrete or on the asphalt sounds like, crabs running across the rocks. I don't know. It either drives you crazy or it doesn't. But the other thinking was too that a lot of the time when you don't have any ice or snow coverage. On dry roads or on wet roads, you actually lose a little bit of traction with the studs. So there's a definite trade-off there that you have to take into account. My personal decision was not to do them, but I mean, if you did encounter a lot of ice, certainly go with them. I mean, there's no, I don't think they dramatically alter range, or there's no real other drawback to them. It would be the same as on any other car. So if you're comfortable with studs, if you like the performance on studs, then keep them. If you want to go maximum quiet, there's certainly enough good studless tires right now that, you know, and the difference isn't as enormous as you think. I think in testing, typically you'd see around 5 to 10% improvement, you know, is the best case scenario on an icy surface for having the studs. It's not like it's a 50% improvement or something like that. But hey, that's the difference sometimes between being in someone's back bumper and stopping 10 feet away. So
cool. All right. Well, thanks for the answer. I switched my other camera here, so I'll retackle this question. So he's asking about what is rebalancing batteries. Well, in a nutshell, if you remember, Tesla battery is composed of several thousand individual battery cells. And the battery management system, which is responsible for reading voltages from each one of the modules that's in the batteries, basically tells the computer how much range you have and so on and so forth. But the battery modules are not monolithic. There are actually subgroups of batteries that are actually wired together in series and then in parallel. And the ones that are in series have individual wires going to the BMS, so it can read those in groups. Now, on the Model 3, I haven't really looked at the interior of the battery to tell you how many of those groupings are, but I can tell you in a Model S or a Model X, there's 16 modules, and each one of those modules are broken down into subsections. So it's those little subsections that are read. So what rebalancing really means is that what the battery management system will do is actually charge and discharge those groups of cells to try and normalize the voltages between those groups. It can't do it down to the cell level, but it can do it down to the submodule level. And you'll notice that if you do a range charge, which is 100% charge, don't recommend you do that on a regular basis, it takes a very, very long time to actually do that last 10%. Let's say you're normally charging from 90% to 100%. So that last little bit is not so much filling the battery, but it's that rebalancing process that it takes into account all the different voltages and tries to normalize them. So the BMS will actually try and charge some of the lower voltage modules up to a normalized and try to discharge the other one. So that whole little process of trying to get everything like normalized is what takes such a long time. So what you'll notice in some cases, though, is that if you're in the habit of doing too low of a state of charge, which is one of the things that Kim at the Like Tesla channel ran into, where she had some range loss, if you're in the habit of charging too low, then the BMSs get a little out of whack. So the solution is just to keep increasing your charge rate until things get up to about 100%. Then the BMSs really settle down and they know, okay, I know what the voltages are. So that's what rebalancing really is. So I hope that explains what that is. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. Let's see here. Let's find another question here. Our good friend Jay Pace, he says, question, would Model 3 Owners Club consider organizing a rally event like the Rally des Neiges event that Ian Pavelko helped organize? I think it'd be really fun. Maybe ask show sponsors if they could offer a prize or three. Even without prizes, a nominal entry fee, we could donate proceedings for charity. Ian, thoughts on this?
I'd love to do one.
Absolutely, let's do it.
You know, it's not a problem. There's definitely a skill set to it, so we need to have someone wherever we're organized. We have to decide where we're going to have it, right? Because you can't have the same rally everywhere. It all depends on the roads where you are, and it has to be somewhere that I'd be able to access on a reasonably regular basis. Because to do a rally, you need to go out and run the route at least 2-3 times, maybe. So for me to do one in the GTA or Greater Toronto area, for all of you outside,
it would take
Yeah, I would have to make a lot of trips up there. That would not go over well with the domestic situation at home here. So, sadly, Jay, I don't think I could go do one on your home turf. But if maybe we could do one somewhere in the middle, I don't know, around Ottawa or something like that. That might work.
Yeah, that might work. I'm more than willing to come to Quebec. Not a problem.
Oh, there you go. But then we'd be forcing all of our friends. It doesn't matter where we do it. We're never going to make everybody happy, right?
Well,
we'd have to pick a spot. But yeah, I would be totally down for that. Let's throw it out there. Everybody write in on Twitter, whatever you want, and try and let us know.
Send us an email, podcast@Model 3 Owners Club.
yeah, in the comments, podcast, exactly, the podcast comments, or an email, or in the Twitter comments, let us know what the interest is on this. If you'd be willing to come somewhere near the Montreal area, if we could settle on a spot, and yeah, I'd love to do one for everybody. You know, that would be a blast.
Yeah, someone else had asked me on Twitter today if if we were going to do anything as a club for more events and stuff, and I said, well, I like to do that stuff in the spring and the summer. So yes, we'll do some stuff with Model 3 Owners Club when the temperature warms up in this local area. I get a lot of questions. I get other people on Twitter asking me to go to California to do it because, you know, we've been talking about Cars and Coffee. I have to remember, Cars and Coffee is sponsored by EVAnnex. It's not really Model 3 Owners Club. We're just, you know, participating, and we've been invited to come out and participate. There's probably a chance, you know, if this Model 3 thing or the Model Y event actually happens in the spring, as Elon has been hinting at, we end up in California, there's always a chance we may do some kind of like informal meetup or something like that. So if we do anything like that, just watch on Twitter. We'll announce it. We'll say something on the show or something like that. But I would love to do more and more things out in the public and stuff, because I like to meet the fans, but it's just because of travel expenses and, you know, the dollar's not in our favor if we go down to the US. It just makes things so much more expensive. You know how it is.
Oh, hell yeah, especially right now.
Yeah.
So
all right,
are you saying it's cheap for people like me to come see you?
Well, I do encourage Americans to come visit Canada because your dollar goes so much further right now. Why not?
And you guys pay way less for flight. You pay way less for everything.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to do a little bit of a vlog when we actually get on the airplane situation. Flying in Canada is extremely expensive. We are raped when it comes to flights, which is why I always fly out of the U.S. If I go to Buffalo or I go to Niagara Falls Airport on the other side of the border, I pay less than 50% of the price than I would get here. And that's including exchange. It's just, yeah. Anyways, that's my rant for today.
Hey, at least I was going to say, jokingly, at least your government's not shut down.
Wow, that's a discussion for another day.
Yes.
All right, let's get back into some questions here. We had a question from Tesla in the UK. It says, with a CCS plug on European Model 3 and changes to some supercharger plugs, have you heard anyone mention a CCS destination charger or possibly a Tesla plug to CCS adapter? I'll gladly answer this. Just to clarify, Tesla is putting a CCS, that's the combined charge standard plug, on the Model 3. They haven't retrofitted any of the other cars at this point. There's no need to. You have to remember, a combined charge standard is two parts. There is a round plug on the top that is designed for level 2 charging. In Europe, they use the Type 2 connector. In North America, we have a standard called J1772. On the bottom of the CCS, you have two DC plug pins. Those are for high voltage straight into the battery. CCS as a whole, if you use all of the plugs, that's really for level 3. That's your fast DC charging, superchargers, all the other level 3 chargers that are around. So as for destination charger, things like a wall connector or anything like that, they're not level 3, they're only level 2. So there's no need to have a CCS plug necessarily on those because level 2 is already incorporated in the CCS standard. So just remember, it's the CCS standard is the top plug, which is your level 2, changes on your locality, whether in North America or in Europe. So that's the only part that changes. In Tesla's case, what they've done for Europe is that they've just standardized on the Model 3. It has a larger charge part flap, so they can incorporate a larger charge port into the car just for simplicity. It just makes it compatible without having to use any adapters. If we were to speculate a little bit going forward, Model S, Model X, if they ever get around to doing some kind of body redesign, it makes total sense for them, at least for the European markets, to increase the size of the charge port on the back, similar to what they've done with Model 3, and just standardize on CCS and call it a day. But right now, it doesn't make sense to put anything on a destination charger because it's level 2 anyways and it's already incorporated. So hope that answers your question. Let's see here. What else we got? I should have wrote down which ones I wanted to answer. We got so many. Oh, yes. Here's another one here that I thought I would answer, and I already did, but we'll talk about it here on the show. Hubert Savelberg says, we need an option for a tow hook to mount a bike rack for heavy e-bike at the back of Model 3, not on the roof. I'm not alone with this wish. Belgium and the Netherlands are bike countries, and I agree with you 100%. So I did respond to him to take a look at the Eco Hitch by a company called Torque Central. It is an option. I don't know if it's available in Europe yet. Europeans may have a different distribution system. They may have some different hitch laws or whatever. It is totally possible. My opinion is that it's not really designed to pull heavy trailers and stuff. It's designed for things like bike racks and that type of thing. So hopefully for an e-bike, if it's not too heavy, you should be okay, but I highly encourage you to take a look at that. There are options. Even though Tesla hasn't put anything out officially, you can get options from other people and stuff. I think it sells for about $400 US, so it's not too bad. There is a respondent underneath. As Michael says, in Europe, we need an electrical coupling with any tow hook for auxiliary lights. That's what Tesla has problems with. Yes, of course. But I think the Torque Lift has an option for an electrical, so somehow they figure that out. All right, let's move on here. Alan says, maybe a future podcast. Let's bring this up here so you can see what we're talking about here. Alan says, maybe a future podcast interviewing a European Tesla or Model 3 purchaser on how the deliveries were different or is it the same in the US. Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that. We have lots of followers in Europe, of course, so we'd love to hear from you. So any of you who are out there who do get your Model 3, let's say sometime in February, please get in touch with us. We'd love to have you on the show. We'll have to sort out time differences, of course, because we're in North America and you're in Europe, and there's some time differences, so we have to sort that out. Let's see here. Moving along. Eric, did you see anything on here that you would like to get in on?
Nothing really specific. I mean, a lot of the topics we've sort of covered already, but I do have one question for you two gentlemen.
Okay.
What is one feature of your car? I know that for those of you who don't know, Trevor has a Model X. It's a beautiful car.
Still have my reservation for a Model 3. Don't forget.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I get that all the day.
But this is good. A good question because we have two different cars. So yes. Trevor has his Model X. Ian has Magneto, his Model 3.
Performance Model 3.
For each of you, what is one feature of your car that you realize you can no longer live without? And what is one feature that, you know what, if it wasn't in your car, you'd be okay because you really don't use it?
Boy.
You go first, Ian.
Yeah, heavy hitters.
You go first, Ian.
This happened just the other day. I think it was just the incredible speed with which you can heat the interior of this car is out of this world. When I dropped it off to have the rear glass changed last week, they gave me a Sonata loaner. And I know everybody's like, oh my God, you had to go back to an ICE car. Listen, I've been driven, I drove it for 38 years. It wasn't the end of the world. And it wasn't even that bad a car. I kind of enjoyed it. It was smooth enough. But the fact that you had to wait for the gas engine to warm up, it's pathetic. I mean, I've only had this car for 3 months. I'm just halfway through my first winter with it. And I'm so totally and utterly spoiled and destroyed by the instantaneous heat that car can generate just at the touch of your button. I've had remote starters on all my cars for 20 years. That would just take the edge off when you got in. This car is downright warm and toasty. It's incredible. I mean, you can melt the snow off it in the morning.
I do that regularly.
Yeah, that's something that I've become totally addicted to. Something that I could live without. You guys are going to find this heinous, considering how expensive it was. And maybe I'll have a completely different opinion after spending 60 hours going to Florida and back. But I could live without autopilot.
Really?
Yeah, I love the feature. And I mean, it's the coolest thing to demonstrate in the world. People just go gaga when you just go, look, mono hands, la, 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 la. They go trippy over it. But I guess part of it is because I'm such an old school hands on the wheel driver. But yeah, a lot of the times I find I have to remember to engage it on long stretches of highway because I just so much enjoy the feel of the car. That was apparent from the first time I had the rental in California before I even got my own car. I was kind of like, boy, why did I order this exactly? Again, I'm sure on a long trip like I'm about to undertake, I'll have a very different opinion. And I love, especially now with nav on autopilot, it's spectacular. It works really well. But yeah, truth be told, that wouldn't be the end of the world if I didn't have it.
All right, my turn.
Go.
Yeah.
I'm really spoiled with the windshield. I love that thing. That's probably my favorite feature. Feature I'd like that I could live without. Probably the Falcon wing doors. They don't bother me. It's just like they're there. But I didn't buy it because of that. It's just I wanted a bigger SUV, and it just happens to be like that. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, get rid of the web browser. It's freaking useless. Never use it.
You think?
Yeah, I think.
I don't think I've even used it in my car. I think when I got the version 9 update last year, I sort of played around with it to see how it worked, but I think that's it. I've never used it in my car otherwise.
You know what it is good for when it does work is there's Tesla Ways, right? That site
Yes.
you can go to,
Yeah.
and you can actually have the way. I do appreciate that. That when it does work, that is actually kind of handy.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are my bits. Just it is what it is.
I'll answer my own question. So I'll tell you
Please
what
do.
I could do. I could tell you what I could do without.
Excuse me.
That's the easy one. The glass roof.
Yeah, that one section above your head.
As a driver, I don't look up enough. I mean, if I'm parked somewhere like I was today, sort of like sometimes I forget that I have that view above my head. But for the most of the time in my car, I don't even use it. I don't look up through it. It's a great thing to see. It's great when you wash your car and you see the color on the top of the glass roof. But yeah, if I didn't have that, I think I'd still be okay. The feature I think is.
So you're saying you'd be okay with a headliner all the way through?
We're going to start a whole activist group over this, and now you're telling us.
Hashtag give us the glass.
Hashtag glass all.
Okay.
Glass for all.
That's it.
Glass for all. Yeah, if you take out the 4, it's like a glass all. All right, so.
And we have a show title. There we go.
Yeah, right. The feature that I can't live without nowadays, it really is autopilot for me.
Really?
I drive
fascinating.
I drive great stretches of road here in Florida. I'm usually a highway driver, and there's a number of times where it's just been a great safety benefit. Because sometimes drivers don't pay attention, they're drifting, they're on their phones, which is illegal, by the way, here in Florida. So yeah, it definitely would be that it's autopilot. I've seen it. There's been some instances where it's kept me from being in an accident with other drivers just because how it responds to something happening around me. So it's been great. I really would like, yes, please. That's the best part.
Cool. Good questions. Always like to hear our opinions sometimes. All right, let's dig in here. Let's do 2 more questions from the viewers, and maybe we can call it a night. Okay. First one here comes from Michael Conan. He says, do you think smart air suspension, that's what he means by SAS there, will come on Model 3, and when, if you do?
I say no.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think... So here's my general train of thought when it comes to Model 3. The less bells and whistles, the better. We realized that when the Model 3 was going to be coming out, that it was going to have half the wiring of the Model S, and it's going to have less technology, just because they want to be able to produce a less expensive car and be able to produce it quickly. I don't think they're going to put the SAS on the Model 3. I mean, I'd be surprised if they did, but at this point, there's been no discussions of it. I'd be surprised after more than 2 years touting this car that they would suddenly just decide to add that as a feature. I just don't see it happening.
Personally, I think they will in due time. Okay. Right now, they're still, well, they're not really in production hell. They're in delivery hell. But you have
Service
to...
hell too.
Yeah. Not a day goes by where I don't see somebody on Twitter or on social media or wherever it happens to be saying, okay, well, where is the $35,000 car? We know that's coming. We'll talk about that here in a second. But why doesn't that Model 3 have, this feature and that feature and this feature and that feature? And I'm like, a lot of you might be new to this, but you forget the Model S didn't originally have parking sensors. It didn't have folding mirrors. It had a lot of things that, of course, we take for granted today. So as far as Model 3, you have to plan in some upgrades to keep the product going eventually. So you can't just deliver a fully baked car. It just doesn't happen. Otherwise, there's nowhere for you to go. So I think in the case of smart air suspension, it could very much be tied to a future upgrade to the performance Model 3 or the performance package that will come in due time. I have air suspension on the Model X. It's not like I have a choice. It's kind of built in. I like it a lot. After driving a gas car for almost part of a week in my last loaner and getting back into this, night and day difference. I happen to like air suspension. If I had a Model 3 and I had performance, I would want air suspension. So there are some benefits to it. So I think it's going to come eventually, along with a slew of other features. Because I mean, the Model 3 is not going to be a Model 3 the way it is forever. They are going to add more features as they go. It's just the name of the game. Ian, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I maybe I tend to take Elon too much at his word, but he seemed
He did say.
yes, on at least 2 occasions I can remember that he said, yes, it's coming next year. In other words, he almost with an air of disappointment in the way he wrote. It's like, yeah, we couldn't get it out, for the launch, but that's going to be coming. And I got to think, especially at the high end for the performance car or whatever, it's something that people want. They've associated it with the brand. And I got to think it's a good cash cow. I mean, if there's money in it for them, I'm sure they're going to, and of course, this is the company that charges $5,000 for everything. So if it's like, you want SAS, $5,000, this is kind of what I see them putting it at. Maybe, maybe not. But hey, if they can make a profit on it, and it's in development already, I think it's something we'll see come down the pike.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, well, everybody has an opinion, I guess, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah. Okay, moving along. We got 2 more questions here we'll just tackle real quick, and I think they're kind of tied together. So we have Joe Butt here says, thoughts on the $35,000 version, only for reservation holders. All others get a $35,000 or $40,000. They don't lose money. And then also from Brian Leslie, he says, what do you think will be available in 4 to 6 months? When will we be able to order the standard range all-wheel drive non-premium interior packer? Do you think that a customizable standard range won't come out for a while yet? I have some thoughts. We've talked about this on the show before. I think right now, Tesla's obviously not able to offer a $35,000 car yet. They still don't have their costs in check yet. It will come eventually. It would not surprise me to see not just a mid-range Model 3, but maybe something even lower, maybe around $40,000 that will have a standard battery, but you still have to pay for the premium interior just for a little short while. Just keep chipping away at that cost on the car to try and get people to jump on the bandwagon. I mean, Tesla's really good at doing these demand lever things, pulling these little things. I mean, when they introduced the mid-range Model 3, man, I mean, the orders just took off. So it wouldn't surprise me that they would eventually do something like that. Offer a standard range Model 3, but keep the premium interior until they really get the cost in check, and then the true $35,000 car will be available at that point. Any thoughts on that?
I can agree with that.
Crickets.
Yeah. I think that's where we're going. I mean, this idea that the car is never going to come out. No, it's definitely going to come out. It's a little bit of an Elon time thing again. They've got to get there. And this comes back to what I was saying earlier. I think they're undergoing tremendous, financial dieting to get them down to the point where they can produce the car viably. It's just a function of, will it be in 4 months? Will it be in 6 months? Will it be in gasp 7 months? I don't know, but I'm sure they're going to get there.
Okay. One more question. One more. Last one, I promise. Okay. Art Booth. Regarding the blind spot warning, you need to add a chime indicator right now. You have to take your eyes off the road to check the screen. I agree with you 100%. Excuse me.
Oh my God, Kermit the Frog is trying to show.
Ribbit.
Hello, Miss Piggy.
Yes. My last loaner, which was that Mercedes CLA, did have something, and I forgot to put that into my review, my impromptu review that I do. Every time I get a loaner, I like to do one of these reviews. That whenever there was a car that was coming up in a blind spot and I put the blinker on, it would chime once or twice. That, I was like, we need that. That would be really cool. And it wouldn't take much for Tesla. I mean, everything that we need to do this is already present on the car. We have blind spot monitoring. All it takes is for Tesla to add the chime. So if this is a feature that you think is valuable, and I think it is, we all need to collectively get on Twitter and ask Elon for that feature. The best time to catch him? Sunday nights. That's when he tweets the most. We'll try and make a concerted effort this weekend to try and catch him on that one.
You want to laugh, Trev? The loaner Sonata I had, which was from the rental fleet, it was not exactly the high Zoot one, had that feature. I was kind of like, really?
I think it's becoming more common. I mean, I had a Bliss system on my last car, which was the Lincoln MKC. It didn't do the blind spot notification, like it didn't make a chime. I mean, I got the little indicators in the mirrors, and whenever I had the car in reverse, of course, it would flip out when it detected a car anywhere near. So some cars are getting more and more. I mean, don't forget that car's already 4 years old by today's standards. So, this technology, this stuff is moving very quickly. And again, this is just a software thing. Tesla can add it, but they need to hear from the public. Just blabbing about it's not good enough. You need to get on Twitter and let the man in charge know. So again, let's try and do something maybe on the weekend to try to get Elon's attention. Any
Glass
closing?
for all.
Glass for all. That's the hashtag we're using.
Blind spot monitoring for all. Glass and blind spot monitoring for all.
Yes, of course. Any closing thoughts, guys, before we call it an evening?
I do want to say really quickly here that I'm looking forward to the event coming up on February 3rd. It's, this show has certainly taken off from the outset, and that's in large part because of the community surrounding what we do. So if you haven't already registered, this is just, again, one last ask for you guys. We have 120 registrants as we're taping this show on January 24th, which is great. So please sign up if you're going to bring a friend, a significant other, someone who's interested in electric cars, anything. Just bring them. It's a fun day. It's a fun event. It's a great day. Typically, people hang out well after the event's over just to kind of socialize, look at other cars, go for test drives, things like that. When Trev and his wife were down here last year, she had a chance to test drive the car.
She's the first Canadian woman to drive one.
Yeah, there you go. Not that we're biased in any way, but it's honestly a great event. If nothing else, it's just taking this community that has so much passion and energy and brings everybody together. And it's Super Bowl Sunday, so it's not going to impede upon your evening plans. The game's still going to be 6.5 hours later. So just come out. It's a great event. There's going to be, again, all kinds of little finger foods. There's coffee for everybody, but you have to register. The number of people that register will determine exactly what the event will turn out to be, how much food to get, et cetera, et cetera. So please go to the YouTube description for this podcast, or go to the description that we'll put up on your various podcast players. Tap the link, go online, or even go to Twitter and go to Trevor's profile where he's had a pinned tweet, which has a link right there. Just go ahead and do it. It's a great event. Please come out. We'd love to see you. Even if nothing else, you just come, say hi, and then leave to go somewhere else. Just show up. We'd love to see you.
And as we mentioned, we will not be doing a show next week because of the timing that I have to get on the plane to get down to Florida, but we will not let you down. We have some really fun stuff planned.
Yeah, we do.
For that week. So we'll let you in on the surprise a little bit later. Anyways, Eric, you're on screen here, so it's your opportunity to plug your social media and stuff before we sign off for tonight.
Thanks, Trevor. So if you guys want to follow me on social media, you can find me on Twitter. The handle is ECFix. That is ECFIX. And a quick shout out to our two friends who are not here. You can follow Rafael Santoni at Teslatino. You can also find our friend Michael. He is at Teslatunity. So give those gents a follow. They're big supporters of the show, and they're why we're here doing what we're doing.
Absolutely. Ian, you're up next. Do your plug.
All right. Well, I'm just going to start by saying I am as equally stoked as Mr. Camacho to meet as many of you as I can. I'm really thrilled with the opportunity to go down and be part of the show there in February. That's going to be super awesome. So hopefully as many of you can make it out as possible. Hope to see you there. On Twitter, of course, you can find me at Ian Pavelko. That'll be properly spelled in the show notes. On Model 3 Owners Club, the handle is Mad Hungarian. If you have any specific questions about Model 3 performance or the wheel and tire aspect of things in general, I am always happy to add answers on public or private message, whatever the case be. And finally, there it is. Our man Trevor is advertising.
I'm sporting a man in red.
WMA,
yeah, baby.
Mass adoption shirt, exactly. I'm wearing my Little Red Riding hoodie with the Evolve Wear, of course, traditional slogan on it here with the caveman evolving into the gas car, evolving into the Model 3. So we have that, and Mr. Camacho is doing the black WMA this evening as his preferred fashion. So all of those T-shirts, of course, I use as a fundraising thing. $6 from each item gets donated to 3 different organizations: Plug-in America in the U.S., Electromobility Canada here as a national agency, which helps fund all sorts of other different EV organizations, and then finally my own home province one, l'AVEC, Association du Véhicule Électrique de Québec, who all do fantastic EV advocacy work. So every time you buy one of these shirts or mugs or what have you, you are helping a good cause. So if you go to teespring.com, spring, all one word.com, and just look up model, Mad Hungarian or Evolveware. You'll find the selection of them. And of course, Trevor, you're usually good enough to put the link
Always
into the show notes. Exactly. So you can see that there. It's also in my Twitter profile. So if you just go look me up on Twitter, you'll see in my profile the web link for that as well.
Oh,
awesome.
Let us not forget really quick. The incentive program, the referral program, is ending at the end of January.
Boy. Yeah, that's
we would be remiss because this is our last show of the month of January. Please, if you were thinking of getting, I know, right? So Ian is a very humble fellow. He recently tweeted out his referral code. You'll see those all throughout the show.
First time ever.
First time he's ever done it. We're the kind of people that want to inform and educate. We're not here seeking referrals because we want to gain something. It's ideally we want to help further the mission for Tesla. So if you are interested in ordering a Tesla or you know someone who does, again, we would greatly appreciate if you use referral codes. If you don't, that's fine. But why give away 6 free months of supercharging on your car, or the person you're going to refer to is going to get the car? Take care of the benefit. In the show notes, you'll see the referral code for Trevor, for Ian, for me. Pick any one of them. Trevor has got like 8 roadsters. I'm kidding. He doesn't have He's only got 2. So
only 2.
He's totally fine. He's rocking up the scoreboard, but
I don't need any more referrals. Don't use mine.
He doesn't need more, but feel free to, if you have someone you care about. Again, we're looking about 1 week left from when we're taping the show till the end of the referral program as we know it. So please, this is the end of it. So use the referral codes, get out there, place those orders. You can go online and submit them after your order's done. You can actually go to a showroom and take care of it there. But again, the referral program ends next week. So please, if you're seriously interested in getting a Tesla, do not miss out.
Don't leave that money on the table.
Dude.
Yes, don't leave free charging on the table. Even if you're going to charge your car like 4 times a year, like I have, free is free is free.
That's right, baby.
Hell yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for doing that. Thanks for joining me on the show. You can follow me. My Twitter handle's at Model 3 Owners. Again, the best place to discuss Model 3 with everybody, and we actually have a search function that works, is Model3ownersclub.com. I want to say a big shout out to all of our sponsors. That's EVAnnex, Dual Band Insurance, and the great guys at Fine Lab Ceramic Coatings. That's it for this week. Again, we're going to skip next week. We'll be back on the following week, on the first week of February. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye. See you February 3rd.
Bye.
Bonsoir tout le monde.